Hello, Faye. Welcome to our Compassionate Women's Health Community Practitioner interview series. Thank you so much for joining us and coming to talk to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I met Faye through our Reiki Tribe Nights here in Brisbane. So we're both Reiki practitioners, and it's so lovely to come together with your community and share experiences and what you're coming up against in your practice. And so Faye not only is a Reiki practitioner, but she's a sound healer. So I'll introduce her more formally now. So Faye is a heart-centered holistic wellness professional. Her passion is Reiki and sound healing, both forms of energy work. So understanding that energy is everywhere and everything and in constant flow. This led her to creating her business, Sunflower Reiki Brisbane, enabling her to turn her passion into her way of life for herself and others. With her own unique style and approach, Faye works with aligning, balancing, and raising your energetic frequencies and vibrations on multiple levels: physically, emotionally, mentally, soulfully, supporting you in returning to your natural and unique state of health and well-being in a gent and gradual way and at a pace that is right for you. So Faye is a certified second degree Yusui Reiki energy healer, soon to be Reiki master, and sound therapy practitioner. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So I love to get my practitioners to share a little bit more about those modalities, because people might have heard of Reiki, but how is Yusui Reiki different, and what is sound healing? So can you share a little bit more about that and what you do with it?
Yeah, so as you say, there's quite a few Reiki practitioners, and we'll all have our own initiation and then our own style. And what I found with my particular style is Reiki in its most basic form is somebody makes an appointment, comes in, and we'll get them on the massage table, and we'll check in to see what's brought them to me, what's brought them to the Reiki session that day, and get them onto the massage table. And then it's really, my personal style is, I'm very much a talker, and Reiki I'm actually not. When I'm very much I almost step myself to one side and work purely with the energies and the intentions for that session. Now my add-on to that is I kind of developed, I started off doing 60-minute offerings, and it's now 90 minutes, and it's probably going to be 2 hours at some point, because what's kind of naturally unfolded over time is my clients come in, and it's almost, the sessions are in thirds. It's a third of talking, it's a third of silent energy work, and then it's a third of the reflective talking at the end. And what I find with this is it really helps. We are thinkers, we're all thinkers, and to have a talking element and talk through and hear ourselves, and kind of that, don't know if you've heard the term rubber ducking, when we talk things out and we can hear, we sometimes actually come up with our own inner wisdom already at that point.
Yeah.
So that's where my sessions are probably maybe similar or different to other Reiki practitioners. And then, we do the beautiful silent energy balance. And this can look different. The talking element can look quite different. And I tend to structure it with 3 kind of intentions, really. The first is finding out what is there that people wish to release. Because there are always things to let go of, and what is there that people wish to invite in, because there's always things that I kind of describe it as you're welcoming in a new friend. So who is it, what is it that you want to welcome in? And then the third, which has just recently come up for me, as I say, my natural evolution, is what would you like to amplify? Because every single one of us has our own inner wisdom, our own inner light, our light force. And this is what the session is all about, is that connecting with your life force and balancing and aligning.
And I love how you acknowledge that it's not just about getting rid of things and bringing things in. It's about also acknowledging that there are some good things happening right now. And let's amplify that. Let's acknowledge what is working right now still. That's awesome.
Yeah. And like I say, that's just recently come in. And when it came in, I mean, just talking about it gives me goosebumps, because it's so true. We're all life force beings. So that's already there, that's constantly there, let's connect with that. And so however the conversation goes, and it can be conversations about physical state of being, emotional state of being, and for me, energy is everything, and everything is connected. So, and part of my experience is I had a mental emotional experience that turned into a physical injury, and so there's a connection with everything. And whilst I'm listening to people talking, I start to identify, but not diagnose, because that's not what I'm there for. I start to identify what energies, where the energies at, what chakra points are they relating to, and I listen, and it gives me an indication of the broader picture, I'd say. So that's Reiki.
Do you mind sharing a little bit more about chakras? Because there might be some women in this compassionate women's health community who aren't familiar with chakras. Do you want to just give a really quick little synopsis of them?
Yes. Oh gosh, it's so interesting. Literally every part of this subject is massive. So I work with, there are many chakra points, and the chakra is, I work with the 7 main chakra points, and they are energy points within our energy system, within our body. And so we've got the crown chakra, which is top of the head, third eye chakra, throat chakra, heart chakra. I'm going to stand up actually. The solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra, and then the root chakra. And all of these have their own associated energy signature, energy frequency. So I'll give you an example that the throat chakra is associated with expressing our truth, which is actually why because I'm talking to you today, I'm wearing blue, and the throat chakra is blue. Yeah. So I'm tapping into the energy of my throat chakra and speaking my truth, and hopefully speaking some sense that actually resonates with people.
Yeah, that's it. It's so important for being able to articulate and express ourselves, isn't it? And in the women's health kind of area, it can be really important for women's throat chakra to be strong so that they can communicate with medical professionals, with their family, about what they need, what's working for them, what's not working for them. So such an important chakra in women's health.
Communicating with ourselves, because communication comes in all forms. As I say, there's emotional states, and that's an energetic state. That's also a form of expression, and how we receive that and interact with that is just one tiny little part of the information that we're constantly receiving. And so, I look at the individual chakra energy points, but then what I also do is I look at them as a whole, because we are whole beings. And so it's about looking at someone as a whole, not just one part, because everything's interconnected, interlinked, multi-layered.
So tell me more a bit about the sound healing. How do you use that, and what does that do? Like how does that work?
Yeah. So I stick with chakras and Reiki, keeping it simple for myself, because I think my mind would be blown. So I have quartz crystal singing bowls, and it's a set of 7, and they are associated with the chakras. I would say that with anything that I do and working with people, I meet people where they're at. My intention is for their energy frequency, their vibrations, and bringing their state of being into alignment, and also elevating. But we are perfectly not exactly where we're at, I will say that. It's kind of that one eye on the present and one eye on the future, and that rather than the anxiety of the future, it's the dreaming. We can expand our whole life. We are teachers and simultaneously teachers and students and teachers. So everything that I touch upon, that's my intention, is the balancing and the expansion, and the releasing, and the bowls do exactly the same. So when I work with people, it's intuitive and it's meeting them where they're at. And the bowls, so I do 90 minutes sound baths, and it's approximately about 50 minutes of people allowing themselves to be in a meditative state. And what does occur, I'll keep it simple, what can occur is I invite people to connect with their chakras. I invite people to open up to wherever any energy needs to go and what needs to happen for them in that moment. And so on any level, physically, emotionally, mentally, soulfully, and how that shows up, allowing it to show up. One, I'm creating a safe and supportive and loving space, so for them to feel safe, but to let go of pressure, let go of feelings of responsibility, let go of feelings of expectation, because these are states that we're in quite a lot constantly. So I try and I create and invite this bubble, this container for people to be rested. They can go as light or as deep as they wish to go.
Yeah.
How the experience can be felt for people is very varied, and it's a big element of permission.
Yeah.
So are people permission? Oh, there's something in there. Permission's a big thing. I know. Whenever I get a croaky throat, I'm kind of like, I know that that's a sign of truth. So yeah, how energy can shift and move for people, how that shows up. It can be feeling emotionally elated, emotionally depleted. It can feel physical. You can have physical sensations. Certain thoughts may cross the mind. So you may twitch, you know, people may sneeze, cough. All of this is energy moving. And what I do is I say, there is nobody watching you. You just allow things to flow, because energy is in a state of flow constantly, and its natural state is a state of flow.
And I'll add that this is in a group setting, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So that's as well why I invite. It's not about setting limitations, but it is about that expansion. It is about that we are all equally in this space. So you are here for yourself and what your needs are, but also as a collective as well, the needs of the collective. And then, so I invite people to get themselves comfortable on a yoga mat, get their blankets out or whatever they need to get themselves comfortable. And what the singing bowls do within 20 minutes, the scientific studies, and I'm not an expert at this, so I'm just going to lightly touch on this.
Yeah.
Over 20 minutes, allowing the body, the nervous system, the mind, the emotions, everything just to slow and relax with the help of and the support of the singing bowls and sound, which can be heard and felt throughout the body. What this does is it allows the nervous system to calm. It allows the mind and the brain waves to actually go from a higher brainwave activity to slower brainwave activity. And then with the body as well, as these frequencies, and as I say, these frequencies are associated with healing and wellness and well-being. So as they meet our cells, our organs, every part of our being, it's called sound resonance and entrainment. And so it's basically these two energy frequencies that are meeting, and what happens in that moment and 20 minutes onwards is that it supports your natural immune system, your natural bodily functions to tap into their own natural healthy state. And so when you're in this for 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever it may be, it's allowing your body just to be in its natural state and do what the body knows how to be healthy. And that's what the sound baths and the Reiki sessions do, is it's taking a time out to allow your body to actually come back to its natural state of being.
That's beautiful. And when we're talking about a group setting, it is hard to target individual components, but I imagine if you're addressing, you're going from the crown to the root, and women's health, as I said, we were talking before, is the throat chakra. It can be the solar plexus and the health of the core of our being. I know it's not always a physical relation, but our immune system is within that solar plexus. The reproductive organs are in the sacral chakra. So I imagine by groups sitting in this setting, their bodies are going to receive and respond to these as they individually need to.
Yeah. And the thing as well that I believe, and within this as well, is there's so many beliefs, behaviors, habits, consciousness, and subconscious. There's so many levels and layers, the known, the unknown, seen and unseen. What was I going to say then? You really don't know what's going to show up. And what I also invite in is allowing things to be. Because I'll give you an example of, I love yin yoga and I love aerial yoga, and these for me are quite grounding and really anchoring into and connecting with my body physically. The first time I did yin yoga, I went in, I had a curiosity, didn't really have expectations, didn't really know much about it. I went in and I didn't feel particularly disturbed or unsettled or anything, but by the end of it, through the working with my body and the intention that the yoga instructor had for the space, the other people within the space, and the yoga positions that allow things to move and release, I actually was in tears by the end of it, and it was a form of grief that I thought had passed, and this is the thing, I think on a level it had, but through the practice of the yoga and the yin yoga, it was a deeper level, a deeper releasing, and whilst it was uncomfortable, it was, this is another thing I open up, I invite people to open up with, is the different forms of discomfort. And there can be discomfort for our expansion and our health and our well-being, or there can be a discomfort which is a sign of, if you're feeling smaller, then that's not what we want, and that's to be explored of, is this right for us? So if there's a discomfort, but it feels like it's a releasing, an expansion that's happening, then I certainly lean into that and go with that, and also nurture and nourish myself through that and show up with kindness through that process that's happening.
Nice. So was there anything particular in your personal health journey that led you to Reiki and singing bowls?
We all have a story, don't we? We all have a backstory. So I'll try and keep this brief. Going back to childhood, but only briefly. I was very fortunate that I had a very, I would say, healthy, loving family, childhood, upbringing. And prior to that, my mother didn't. So I love her to bits. She made the choice not to repeat the family history and repeat her experience, her life experience. And so with my mum and my dad, I had a very loving family environment. And that's really what I've come back to now. But in between then and now, kind of went out into the world. And it was years of, I would say, as a teenager, starting to feel, as I would say, as a similar experience for a lot of us, the kind of feeling smaller, feeling chipping away, listening externally learning to listen to external noise and external opinions, taking on those opinions, those behaviors, those habits. Because as a young person, you know, and this I'd say this would start maybe 10, 11 for myself, knowingly. And so at that time, my self-awareness, my consciousness, you know, it wasn't where it's at right now. So I took these things on unknowingly right through to my teenage years. I remember having this carefree energy and having this loving energy. But then how that was met in the outer world, I started to really question and make it smaller and question myself, doubt myself, feel like who I wasn't enough, start to compare to others. My self-worth was just being diminished over time. And when I entered into my 30s, I entered into my dream vocation. What I thought it was my dream vocation, but it wasn't my forever vocation. I became a firefighter in the UK, and that lasted for 10, 12 years. What that did was, gosh, it was such a bubble, such an environment that I'm glad I did it. But in the end, I realized how toxic it was, because what it ultimately ended with was work-related stress, work-related depression, going to various therapies, ending up on antidepressants, which for me, I would actually say it was really bizarre. Within a week or two, the antidepressants really allowed this break and this just breathe, this space. So I was on antidepressants for a year, came off those, went from being operational and going on call to fires. And what I would say as well is, not sure if this is important, but I'll start it off. I was a firefighter, and then I went for a managerial role. So I was actually responsible for a fire engine, a fire appliance and its crew. And for me, that was so much pressure for where I was at that time. I felt that's what I should be seen to be doing. It's what I should be doing. Yeah, there was all kinds of stories, and I was kind of telling myself, whilst at the same time in this environment that wasn't necessarily the most supportive, it was very much, let's see where you're going wrong. So it was under this microscope, and that was the environment. It was, interestingly, going to fire grounds and attending emergency situations wasn't the thing that was stressful for me. It was the workplace environment, workplace and culture.
Isn't it interesting? And that resonates so much for me, and the readings that I've been doing recently, and how important the people we surround ourselves with is for our health. And it's definitely a theme that's coming up for me at the moment. Like when I was studying the Women's Brain book last year, and looking at aging and even stress at the moment, who we surround ourselves with, which we don't necessarily have as much control over when we are younger and we're 10, 11 teenage years. In these adult years, without that permission to put up those boundaries or choose who we surround ourselves with, we can end up in that situation where that's what everyone else is doing. So am I the one who's wrong here by not fitting in? But so much permission to step out of that and choose another collective, another group to be with.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah, I feel all of that. And how it kind of concluded for me was, as I say, I broke down on station. I'd lost my sense of self, my sense of identity. I was trying to fit in and conform. The interesting thing, when I started the job, I'm the one, and how I came across and how I interviewed and my skills were what got me into the job. But then going into the bigger culture, it was kind of like, right, well, don't be you. We don't want you to be you. We want you to be this. And I did really struggle with that. And I learned so much about people, and gosh, yeah, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about human behavior.
Yeah.
But how it concluded for me was I was moved on to day-related duties, and that meant I wasn't operational, and I performed other roles. And it was interesting that when I was removed from the environment, the on-station environment, I think it was maybe 6 months later, my Achilles snapped, just went. I had no prior problems with it. I've had no problems since. And for me, I believe that I was in a heightened stressful state for, I would probably say, 2 years. And and you probably know more than I do on this subject, all the hormones and everything that was surging through my body, and how I was trying to do the best I could and cope the way I could. When I was then in a position of I don't need to cope with this anymore, that's when it transformed from one state to another, which for me was the physical. My Achilles released it when it was enough's enough. You're out of the danger state, survival mode, and we now, stop, enough. And so that was fascinating for me. That was just another layer of my own experiencing, learning, and and it's not stopped from that point. It's literally one thing after another, after another, after another. There is wisdom and opportunities and shedding and growth, and so much in every single thing that we experience internally and externally.
Totally. That is such a distinct kind of example of how our emotional state can play out physically. It really is.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go and look in my secret language of the body to look up what Achilles heel is.
It was my right Achilles, so yeah, let me know.
I'm super curious. Like the book I have is in a cigar, but Louise Hay was the original one to write about how our emotions play out physically, and then there's another interview in the group by Jean Sheehan, and she's a medical intuitive, and she talks about the where our emotions can sit in the body. It can be quite individual, but sometimes there's a common theme to it. So it'd be really fascinating. Like, I know knees are about not being able to move forward. So, a retiree might suddenly start having issues with their knees because it's really hard to not be the status of someone with a job anymore and moving into something different. So,
and what I would say is, when you get curious, literally, you can just experience and open your awareness. There's no limit. And I would say I've probably experienced it both ways, of the emotional into the physical. But then the other way around, I had a minor shoulder injury and went to see a physio. And as he was working on it, I could feel emotionally I was getting ratty and irritable. And I actually spoke with him, and I was like, geez, I know I'm getting irritable because physically you are getting in there. So yeah, it's fascinating.
And this is why our modalities, like the Reiki and your additional modality of the sound healing, is so beautiful, because you woo the body into the healing. Like, it's just such a gentle, gorgeous invitation to heal, rather than it's like you will heal.
Safety, free will, permission, because there's so many complexities, and the mind gets so easily overwhelmed and overstimulated and discombobulated. So a big part of my practice is the time and the pace, that you can really connect and ground and grow. because as much as we want things to be instantly there or gone, or, you know, to really embody and to really integrate and then go forward with whatever it may be, it cannot be rushed.
Oh, that's a beautiful message to end on. Thank you. I think, you know, really key messages in that conversation then around permission, the different areas and energy centers of us that relate to different things that people might want to explore further, and also the people that we surround ourselves with is so important for our health, and that permission to go at your own pace, I think is a really nice message. So thank you so much for your time, Faye, in sharing what you bring to the world and how you got there, and for opening up to us about that. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
All right. And when we pop this in the group, I'll get Faye to put her details in there about how you can get hold of her and how you can experience one of these amazing sound baths. So we'll make sure that that's out there for you to experience as well, for those of you in Brisbane. All right. Thank you.